In 2019, a diverse group of Philadelphia-based organizations, each with their own active youth media initiatives, came together to organize the first annual You Set the Stage event. The event was organized out of a collective need to share and uplift the impactful work of the youth in our programs. There was interest in how to meet up and support the original objective of that effort for 2020, but the pandemic crisis presented increased challenges for our programs and for the youth we are serving and supporting. The citywide situation of remote learning forced our orgs to think of new ways of connecting, informing, and instructing the communities we serve. We recognize that supporting our youth's creative expression is an essential tool in this moment, and that the landscape of youth organizing and youth service has shifted permanently. We are made up of 8 youth media organizations based in Philadelphia: Big Picture Alliance, Girls Rock Philly, Lil Filmmakers, Philadelphia Student Union, PhillyCAM, Scribe Video Center, Poppyn, WHYY, and Temple's Klein College of Media and Communication. With support from the IPMF's Community Voices Fund, You Set the Stage 2020-2021 will build upon last year's effort through an online series of programming which will amplify the viewpoints of youth and present them as valued contributions to today's conversations on social change and justice. Youth Set the Stage will build a strong network of organizations working in youth media throughout Philadelphia. Regularly engage youth media content creators and provide platforms to showcase and present the voices and current perspectives of these Philadelphia youth, creating an audio/visual capsule of our current moment.
The documentaries, news segments, and media that we create shines light on our community and the various issues, achievements, and concerns we encounter from a youth perspective. We are Poppyn. Our community is made up of people from diverse and rich backgrounds who dream of a world where, despite one's race, income, religion, ability, gender, and sexual orientation, they can live in an environment that loves and welcomes them for who they are. In this moment, we're experiencing a global pandemic, threats to our democracy, and a climate where accountability and transparency are becoming much more urgent. We're listening to and lifting up our fellow youth and their perspectives so we can show the world that our voices do matter. Because to us, civic engagement means not only looking out for people who look like you, but also people who may be different from you. The world will finally recognize us when we break down the walls they've built to keep people like us out, because we are gorgeous, innovative, capable people who are truly deserving of love. Here is our call to action. If you are 18 or older, please vote. Show the world that we have power. And if you can't vote yet, you can still make your voice heard by getting involved and joining an organization. So join us in making a difference in our country, in our communities, and in our world.
The images we create shine a light on the youth experience.
We are VLux Media Collective of Big Picture Alliance.
Our community is made up of young artists and influencers
who dream of a world where all voices are heard, stories are empowered, and we live surrounded by love and peace.
We know there are many paths to justice, and our journey will be long.
In this moment of exhaustion and life online, we are documenting hope.
To us, civic engagement looks like wearing a mask and getting the job done.
The world will hear us when we raise our voices. The world will recognize us when our work dances across their screens.
We hold fast to our collaborative efforts because we know that without solidarity, there will never be just representation for the youth.
Here is our call to action. Listen to us, educate yourselves, and do the work.
The videos and news packages we create shine a light on history, social studies, or recent events happening in our community. We are WHYY Media Labs. Our community is made up of a strong, diverse group of people whose minds are always coming up with new ideas, who dream of a world where everyone can bring their own creativity to the table and bring their own passions to the light. We know there are many paths to justice, and our journeys may be long. In this moment of lost hope and disaster with everything going on, such as the pandemic, we're still trying to find new ways of spreading our own positivity and continuing our work as young creators through making adjustments in our own schedules and learning new skills that will help us in the future. We try our hardest to continue what we started. To us, civic engagement means working together as a community to create change. The world will hear us when we use our voice in our videos, journals, art, anything we can get our hands on. The world will recognize us when we show the efforts we put in day and night. We hold fast to the principles of teamwork, communication, improvement, and motivation. We know that without the people who are part of our organization, we will never be able to inspire those around us. Here's our call to action. Help us in spreading our messages of hope and empowerment through our various platforms, and join us in creating an environment for all to feel comfortable in.
The media we create shines a light on individual stories. We are PhillyCAM Youth Media. Our community is made up of young creators all over Philly who dream of a world where the misrepresented are represented in media. We know that there are many paths to justice and our journey may be long. In this moment of chaos, we are creating this to help us make sense of it all. To us, civic engagement means that everyone has a seat at the table. The world will hear us when we join together in creating meaningful media. The world will recognize us when we recognize ourselves and our power. We hold fast to truth and light because we know that without media representation, there will never be media justice. Here's our call to action. Show us as we are with intention, authentic and free to be ourselves.
The educational media we create shines a light on youth voice and equity within the school district. We are the Philadelphia Student Union. Our community is made up of longtime residents and youth who have experienced over-policing, who dreams of a world where they can have a quality education in a clean environment. We know there are many paths to justice and our journeys may be long. In this moment of disorganization and stress, we are staying vocal, educated, and organized within our org and community. To us, civic engagement means everyone coming together to make a difference in our community and city. The world will hear us when we testify, march, and protest. The world will recognize us when we show how much youth voice matters through virtual meetings, videos, and audio created by youth. We hold fast to youth organizing and leadership development because we know that without youth, there will never be true unbiased leadership. Here is our call to action. We want young people to participate and recruit other youth that share the same values and beliefs, as well as adults supporting youth by listening to their struggles and valuing their opinions. Finally, we want everyone to hold policymakers accountable for the decisions that they make, which affect students in Philadelphia every day.
The documentaries that we create shine a light on the exclusionary sanctions that are upheld to both radicalize and demoralize the unsung heroes that are doing their parts in fighting oppression. In this case, the issue is voter suppression. We are the budding influencers of Scribe's documentary history program for youth, and our community is made up of accomplished leaders of all backgrounds, ethnicities, and cultures who work together to create inclusionary films that are representative of all and push people towards the right directions of change. We dream of a world where documentaries imploring for adequate change will no longer be necessary. Instead, equity would be uncontested and upheld by the officials that we elect who swore to act in our best interests. We know that there are many paths to justice and that our journeys may be long, but we hold fast to our beliefs in education through documentation because we know that with our collective contributions, there will be sufficient change. Our civic obligations rest only when there are no more stories to cover. And now, we are imploring you to vote.
Hey, I'm Tamira.
And I'm Samira.
And we're
breaking it down.
Breaking It Down is a segment where we come together to research a topic and we give you the background, facts, and statistics.
Today, we're going to break down voter suppression and how it applies in today's elections.
Voter suppression is a strategy used to influence the outcome of an election by discouraging or preventing people from exercising the right to vote.
Laws like the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was created to stop voter suppression. This law specifically prohibits racial discrimination in voting and gave black people the unrestricted right to vote.
But voter suppression is still a problem, and the historic Voting Rights Act has been under attack.
The 2013 Supreme Court decision in the Shelby v. Holder case increased voting restrictions while decreasing the amount of federal oversight on elections.
Experts predict this decision will lead to a new era of voter suppression.
One historic voter suppression tactic that is still active today is gerrymandering.
Gerrymandering is when minority groups are being pushed out into one or fewer districts to make space for the majority to have an influence on the election. Gerrymandering tends to diminish the voting power of black and brown communities by dividing them.
Voter suppression tactics mostly have to do with the issues of access, by making it difficult for certain people to have access to voting.
Things as simple as changing polling hours, locations, election days, and the number of polling places affects people's access to voting.
The absence of multilingual voter assistance also makes it difficult for non-English speakers to vote.
Poll places that are not wheelchair accessible exclude the disabled community.
In most states, incarcerated people have their voting rights temporarily or permanently taken away. That means that 5.8 million people are disenfranchised or unable to vote because of a felony conviction. For example, in Kentucky, shoplifting could permanently remove an individual's right to vote.
1 of every 13 black people have lost their voting rights due to felony disenfranchisement laws, versus 1 in every 56 non-black voters. The 19 Project and Project Vote are 2 organizations fighting to restore voting rights for these people.
One of the most common tactics of voter suppression that is being enforced today are photo ID laws.
That's right. For example, House Bill 934 in Pennsylvania is a new law being considered by the Senate that will require all voters to show a photo ID at the polls.
Supporters of these laws say that if we need an ID to go on a plane, we should need an ID to vote. The stated intent of presenting a photo ID is to prevent voter fraud.
So they just want to know exactly who is voting for safety purposes?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, James Baker, former Secretary of State, wrote that the electoral system cannot inspire public confidence if no safeguards exist to deter or detect fraud or to confirm the identity of voters.
In theory, this sounds like a great way to stop voter fraud. However, when put into practice, the impact is on marginalized people and their votes are affected disproportionately. This includes low-income and working-class people, students, people of color, disabled people, and immigrant populations.
A new study by political scientists at the University of California at San Diego found that a strict photo ID law could be expected to depress Latino turnout by 9.3 points, Black turnout by 8.6 points, and Asian American turnout by 12.5 points.
Racial justice advocates argue that photo ID laws are not about preventing voter fraud, which according to studies rarely happens, but rather about making it difficult for certain groups of people to vote.
So what policies are voting rights advocates pushing for?
One argument is to expand early voting and make Election Day a federal holiday. This way it allows people to vote early, which can help reduce pressures on Election Day. If hourly wage earners didn't have to worry about losing pay while they wait in long lines to vote, this would increase the voter turnout.
Another effort voting rights advocates push for is the monitoring of bills to make sure our voting rights are protected. In 2015, Project Vote was able to monitor 315 bills. They also joined citizens and other advocates demanding the votes' right protections are restored.
Don't think that you can't do anything to help make a difference. The first step to protecting your rights is knowing them. Be sure to research the voting laws in your area so you know where to start.
And you don't have to be the only one fighting to protect your rights. You can talk to your neighbors and join an organization that has your back when it comes to your right to vote.
Also talk to your legislators and let them know that you and your community are watching to ensure that your rights are protected.
Fighting for voters and their rights has been a long battle since the beginning of this country. And we hope that this segment has shown that the struggle for equal voting rights for all continues today.
Being aware is the first step to making a change. We hope that you'll take our information into consideration and get involved.
I'm Samira.
And I'm Tamira.
And we just broke it down.
I think the youth voice matters more than ever now because we're seeing that like young people my age and above are starting to become more active in politics.
The more voters we have, the like bigger step we can take, and also voting on each level. Our president can't make all these decisions, and a lot of things I see people posting about, like, oh, defund the police, like those are local elections that you have to vote in. Those are city officials. So like pushing the presidential election because there's so much excitement and so much media coverage about it, but also using that energy to make sure people continue to vote.
In the 2018 midterm election, we had like the highest amount of youth voters that there's been in like decades. Things are changing, and I feel like our future is going to depend on whether we like act now or not.
Vote That John is an initiative to use the power of youth voice to talk to other youth about voting, their advocacy after voting, as well as their connection with each other around their democratic engagement.
My parents are actually immigrants. They came to the U.S. back in the early 90s, and they instilled in me from a really young age how important participation in democracy is, and it's not something to be taken for granted. So right now, political tension in this country just seems so high, but a lot of people are kind of giving up on the system. So really just out here trying to empower people to stay involved, keep up the fight, get registered, and make their voices heard in November.
At my school, we recently released 10 demands to talk about the anti-racism behavior that's been happening at Central, and I thought like another form to really cause change is through voting. Like, you're not going to get any change unless you put people in office that can enforce these changes and that actually care about you. And I feel like a good way to do that is by voting. I want to vote people into office who are going to enforce laws that represent and are for my people and people that look like me.
The more you think everything is fine, the least you need to engage. Also, the more you think nothing's fine, the more you think I can engage. Both those things endanger democracy because we need young people saying, oh, hey, I'm in it.
I'm super proud of the collaborations that have happened on the ground in Philadelphia. So between Vote That John, Philly Youth Vote, and CMAC, we have been able to do something really special. And I think that we're going to get a lot of young people engaged civically, where before they may have shied away from it. When COVID came, quarantine happened, and so we had to quickly evolve into a digital space.
We would come up with ideas for social media or just creative like spaces like writing or podcasts, and we would do Instagram lives, all this stuff surrounded around voting and voter education.
Social media during COVID-19 for Vote That John, I know we've made a TikTok. If you don't vote, register to vote. Again, I've been making so many videos, like trying to keep up with the trends, so trying to match like the youthful trends and stuff that are going on, but kind of mix it with voting.
Hey, first-time voters, COVID shouldn't stop you from voting.
Here's how to register to vote online.
It's super easy. All you need is an internet connection, Pennsylvania state ID or driver's license,
and 5 minutes of your time. Go to pavoterservices.pa.gov.
On any of your mobile devices.
After you fill out the form, you press submit.
Hey guys, let's talk mail-in ballots.
They can be a little tricky, but we've got you covered.
Click the mail-in ballot form, fill it out, and press submit.
You can track your ballot status on the same site.
The due date is October 27th at 5 p.m. to have it into your county election office.
But going to the polls is still an option for this year's election.
And click the link that says find your polling place. You have to put in your city, your county, and your address, and it'll tell you where you're supposed to go.
Election day is on November 3rd. The polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m.
If this is your first time voting, you need to bring an ID. And it doesn't just have to be a PA state ID or a PA driver's license. And don't forget to vote that John.
You have to start applying to be a poll worker. It's really important for our democracy. Plus, you get $250.
We're calling on the millennials to stand up for democracy. The average poll worker is 60 years old. And on the primary, we received unprecedented call-outs, unprecedented concern of COVID-19. And the younger people were saying, hey, you didn't call on us.
Poll workers, you are referees. You will be trained on what's right and what's wrong. So we need you in there to keep an eye out, to make sure that this is a plain, fair field, that no one is intimidated when they walk into the election booth, that no one's name is missing. We are asking for young people to step up because this is your time right now. 2020 has called upon us. If we don't do it, nobody else will.
So they look at me and they say Isaiah, they say Zeke, they don't call me councilman. Why should I vote? What's going to change? And what we're here today to say, listen, number one, we need you to vote. We need you to vote. Number two, things will change. Things will change. Change is us standing right here together right now. Look at the people that you have that's representing the city of Philadelphia. Look at the fact that you have a commissioner and you have elected officials that are holding seats and have done things that we've never seen in the history of our city. We've never seen in the history of the place of democracy.
The word elect has many definitions. As a verb, it means to choose someone. As a noun, it simply means the chosen. So voting can either be an action or a being. So who are you waiting for? Don't simply cast a ballot, cast a seed, and water it. My community needs more than my voice, it needs my hands. The community garden doesn't plow itself. Meals for the homeless don't distribute themselves. Do not social distancing to the point of internet apathy. Do not simply cast a ballot, cast a seed, and water it. The revolution will not be televised because it will not be performative, it will be performed.
You must remember that you do not vote just for you, but for the mothers supporting their family without even a living wage. You do not vote just for you, but for the elderly families priced out of their homes and forced out of neighborhoods they built from the ground up. You do not vote for you, but for the undocumented immigrants whose family trees have taken root in this soil, nourishing an economy with generations of workers and taxpayers, yet still they have no voice recognized by this government. And you do not vote simply because you can. You vote for everyone who can't.
You are part of who gets placed at the top of this political race. Who gets to be in the White House built on slavery? Who gets to build back our economy? Our voices can be heard to the highs of Washington's monument, to the lows of our history. We've protested for the right to vote. We hold the power to put people in power. We are demanding equal rights, fighting for our lives, losing loved ones, being shot down. But we still have a shot. And this choice is our voice.
Fill the ballot, stamp the ballot, send it. Get the ballot, fill the ballot, stamp the ballot, send it. All hands on deck, get your vote by mail request. Vote.john.com, vote is power, go and get it. Get the ballot, fill the ballot, stamp the ballot, send it. Get the ballot, fill the ballot, stamp the ballot, send it. All hands on deck, get your vote by mail request. Vote.john.com, vote is power, go and get it.
Hi, my name is Sakai Cheney, and today I'll be talking about politics. To be more specific, I'll be talking about this year's election. I see this election as mediocre. I say that because I think Donald Trump shouldn't be allowed to run for president again. I feel he isn't fit for the position and can't handle the responsibility. Many reasons have been provided on why he isn't a great leader. My first reason is because when he found out about COVID, he did nothing to warn or prepare citizens until it got to the US. Second, the type of people that support him don't want the world to change for the better. And finally, he says he supports the Black community, yet he does nothing to help or to prove his support. That's all I have to say, and bye.
Hi, my name is Keisha, and I go to McCall School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm not eligible to vote, but this election does make me a little bit nervous. I've heard many rumors about both candidates, and I do not particularly favor either one of them. I don't think about politics very often, but I do often see it on social media. COVID-19 did affect my view on this election because it made me think about what both candidates are doing to stop the spread. Other movements like Black Lives Matter is also affecting this. What are their opinions on the protests? Do they want to stop or do they support it? If I was running for office, I would target parents. Parents always want what's best for their children, and if I could do that, it might give me more votes. In 2020, I feel like democracy is just people voting to bring someone in a position of power. I feel like the democracy could do much more, but it's just choosing not to.
Hello, so I'm not eligible to vote, and being not eligible to vote, it makes me feel kind of upset because I want to vote for this election, and if people my age would be able to vote, it would feel like this election would be much better than it's going right now. Well, it hasn't really gone anywhere right now, but it would be better. And I do sort of engage in democracy. I like talking about politics. I like talking about what I believe in politics. And sometimes, but I don't really like hearing other people's opinions if it's mean or rude against what I'm saying. So I like engaging in politics, but not really. Thank you.
My name is Tiffany Chen and I attended McCall School in Philadelphia, PA. To me, democracy means the freedom to be me without being judged. It's been very rough for all of us these past months, not being able to see our friends or go on vacation, and most importantly, racism. Racism has been going on for decades now, and has been upgraded to a violent level. Our president has blamed China because of this outbreak. He's calling this the China virus. More than 40,000 people are contracting this virus daily, and our president doesn't care for people's lives. We need a leadership that will lead our country great again.
I see this election as no difference because whoever get elected is not going to help us how we need it. It's not going to help the country how I think we need it. I don't think nobody should be homeless. I don't think nobody should be homeless. They should take the drugs away because that's the main reason why people are homeless anyway. I don't really want to vote. I don't really want to vote when I'm old enough to vote. I don't really want to vote. I don't feel like it's my one vote gonna make a difference. I don't think it's the right person. I don't think it's ever the right person to vote for because no matter what. Plus, it's not with my grandma. My grandma don't believe what she believes in. Don't allow her to vote. She a Jehovah's Witness, and it's like I believe what she believes in. She believes the only people who can help us is God Himself.
I think the issue the president and the new Congress should focus on is the racial discrimination and the color discrimination. This is important to me because I'm immigrating from China to United States, and one is the country I'm born in and one is the country I'm living in now. I don't want any issues between these two countries and when I walk on the street and someone says bad behind me.
Hi, my name is Sante Martin, and to me, democracy means a group of organizations who controls majority of their members. I personally think that people who are 16 years old and up should be able to vote because we do pay attention to what's going on, and I feel as though we should have the right in what to say and what we believe in. And I can't vote, but I do encourage my mom and my grandparents to vote, and I also help my grandma go door to door to pass out flyers on who we think they should vote for. I think it's called the Union, and it says, how often do you think about politics? I think about politics often because a lot of decisions are made from them.
My name is Stanley Young. I attend McCall Elementary School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Political leadership of a country should be led by a person with power and knowledge and acts like a representative of the people and citizens. They should not create drama or chaos, but to create more opportunities for the citizens and to build a better and more positive country, rather than a negative country with more division. If I were running for president, I would make sure that the crisis in our country is solved and done with. If not completely solved, I would make sure that it would be making a lot of progress towards a solution. The younger generation is very critical about climate change and lots of other problems that our country faces internally and globally. However, we should also try to make progress on our economy and solve our global and national problems at the same time.
In this video, I'll be giving my opinion on how candidates can appeal to my generation. Candidates can appeal to my generation by focusing on issues that would attract young people like myself. Today, there are a lot of social issues that affects my generation, but if I was to run for president, the two main issues that I will focus on are police brutality and racism. These ongoing issues are similar because racist white cops abuse and murder black people. These topics will instantly give me a lot of attention and votes because we all want these problems to end. So yeah, these will be great topics to focus on to engage young people specifically.
My name is Marty and I attend McCall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I see this election as something thoroughly terrifying. With two candidates who could win, one is a borderline fascist and one is a liberal, and both have been accused of rape. It's between the lesser of two evils, and you absolutely should care, because if Donald Trump stays president, America would get much, much worse. But besides voting, how much can anybody really do? I know a lot of people my age have started to care about politics more, mostly as a result of everything going on in terms of COVID-19 and protests in response to the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. But then, does anyone really care about politicians? I'm not very enthusiastic about any politicians right now, mainly because I hate the American two-party system. A third-party candidate never wins, so you're essentially throwing your vote away if you don't vote for a Republican or a Democrat. But I kind of despise the Democrats almost as much as I do the Republicans. Sure, Democrats have always been more socially progressive than Republicans, and economic liberalism certainly helps people more than conservatism, but we still live in a society that doesn't truly value the people, that will always put care for the economy over care for real living people. We live in a society that would wage war on innocent people for oil. We live in a society where somehow that's like saying housing should be free is an argument against universal health care. We live in a society where people are brainwashed into never wanting more, thinking that wanting to live is entitlement. We may technically be allowed to think freely, but the way so many people are taught is blatantly biased against so much, like being taught that the Cold War was a struggle between communism and democracy. If communism is inherently undemocratic, why does the CIA love to insert itself into socialist states? Is it not undemocratic to attempt to undermine all systems unlike your own? Democracy should be about the people fairly deciding what is correct, but in America I feel like that word has no meaning. I feel like it's a sham. Liberal democracy won't really help anybody.
No, I cannot vote, but sadly, because I'm only 17. But next year I will. But the only thing I could vote for is not very important to me, like the president. But yeah, I won't be able to vote. I feel like I'm glad because both of the presidents aren't really good. They're not good as a person, and I don't think they fit for president. I currently do not, but hopefully in the future I would participate in democracy. But yeah.
Good evening. My name is Elle. My pronouns are they, them, and I work with YAC and GRP. And then I'll pass it on to Z.
Hi, my name is Akira. I'm a part of, my pronouns is she, her, and I'm a part of the youth PhillyCAM. And pass it on to Jay.
Hi, my name is Jay. My pronouns are they, them, and I am also part of Youth Action Council with Girls Like Philly, and I'll pass it to Zora.
Hi, I'm Zora. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm also part of Youth PhillyCAM,
And basically, we all know that music is a transformative force, that every revolution has a soundtrack, and that some of our most influential artists are also organizers and activists. You Set the Stage, Volume 1, Youthocracy is a compilation of the songs What the Future Sounds Like and the music that's getting us through and getting us to the polls. I'll go first. The song that I chose is After the Storm by Kali Uchis. And I chose this song because it basically tells you that things will get better eventually, like once like everything ends. And this pertains to like COVID and also like social injustice. And I also highlighted a few lyrics on this song that she says that after the storm is when the flowers bloom. She also says, nothing good ever comes easy. I know times are rough, but winners don't quit, so don't give up. And also, though we've been struggling endlessly, someday the love will come. So, yeah.
So for my songs, I picked Who Loves the Sun from the Velvet Underground. And it's like, it just gave me this really euphoric feeling the first time I listened to it. And I like to not listen to it that much, so I always have that feeling when I listen to it again. So just that feeling of always having that, like when you're trying to expect something bad, but it's always there for you. Yeah. So Zora, what's the mood of the song and why is it so special to you?
The song is special to me because like I really like the instruments and how it like really sounds, and also the lyrics on top of it make it like a good song. And like it's just like really like chill vibe. So I really like that. And my question for you was like, how did you feel the first time you listened to that song, and also how did you discover it?
How I discovered it, I was really into classic rock for a while, and like that came up in the recommendations for it. And then the first time I listened to it, I was on like this little walk thing, and I always like it resonates with that moment, so it feels very peaceful, I guess.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I listened to it. Like it's definitely something that I would listen to, so I added it to my playlist. So, and the other song, I liked it as well.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love Kelly. She's so pretty.
So I picked the song Team because, and Praying, but I'll pick Team because I'm trying to think, there's a certain lyrics in the song. I think I'm going to have to listen to it, but it's like some of the stuff she was saying, I feel like connected to the situation that was going on during the quarantine and stuff. And that's why I picked the song.
So I picked Find Someone Like You by Snow Allegra. And I picked that song because, you know, it kind of talks about a relationship a little bit. And granted, I'm not in a relationship, but I just like the lyrics and like the vibe of the song. I guess it just stuck to me, I guess. Does that make sense?
Okay, so about the song that you picked, like what made you first start listening to it?
All right, so I originally had heard I Want You Around on the radio in the car, and I just kept hearing it like a couple times a week. So I decided to go in and actually see more of her work, and then I just kind of played this playlist that Apple Music already had. So, and then that song just really stuck out to me, and that's like one of my favorites about her. So it just kind of went from there. How did you get to your song? Like, how did you come about that?
I think I've been to Minds, but I didn't really listen to it like that, and I discovered it again on TikTok, and I'm like, you know what, this is like, reminds me of this stuff that's going on, and it's like pretty good.
All right, like I knew, like when I first listened to it, I recognized it, and then I actually listened to it again after the first time. I'm like, oh, this song kind of fire.
Yeah. What mood do you feel when you listen to it?
I really don't know what I feel. I'm not happy per se, but I don't feel sad. I just kind of feel like relaxed.
Neutral?
Yeah. How do you feel when you listen to your song?
I mean, I feel pretty neutral too, and also good. Like it's a good song to vibe to. You know, no sad moods, no sad vibes.
Right.
So now that the group's all back together and we all shared our music that we really like, we're going to start talking about what the role music has in our life and also what's inspiring us with the pandemic and the elections and also like the whole revolution that's going on around us. So I can go first. Music for me has just been sort of a self-care thing, and also for a while it like keeps me alive, I guess, as like a coping skill, and it's just become that for me. And then yeah, that's pretty much. And then something that inspires me during this time, like an artist, music-wise, I use that mostly as a form of self-care. Some writers that have been inspiring me were Laura Mathis and Taurus Clear. They're both like poets on Instagram. Yeah, I'll pass it to Zora.
Music has inspired me during the pandemic to both like motivate me and also like keep me in a good mood, like while we're in quarantine and like while everything is just changing a lot. And an artist that has inspired me both like with their music and like their actions is Jayden Smith, because like I like his music and also he's a philanthropist. Like with he has a water company, like Just Water, and just like everything. I really like him, and yeah. I'll pass it to Jay.
All right. In terms of music, like what role it has in my life? It's kind of not a coping mechanism, but it kind of just keeps me in my right mind and brings me back to reality and helps me focus. Like if I'm in school, I have my music playing in the background. And as far as inspiration for artists goes, I really wouldn't know. I guess I don't know. I really don't have any inspirations or role models, I guess. So I'll pass it to Zakir.
About the songs, like the effects that it have on me is like it puts me in a good mood. Like I like listening to music. It's it also get my mood up. Like it gets me more like energized sometimes, or like hype. It depends what I listen to. And it's like really nice.
All right, so to kind of wrap up this conversation, we're gonna answer this question or discuss like what the future looks like to you, or what does it sound like? To me, it looks like a place where you don't really have a dictator as a president or one that's trying to be. You know, everyone's allowed to be who they want to be without fear of repercussions. And yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna pass it to Zora.
I think that the future sounds like the Frank Ocean album we've all been waiting for. So basically what I mean by this is that like it'll be like finally like some sort of peace or like normality. So like we've all been waiting for a long time for it, and I feel like it'll finally be something people will have hope about and like finally be more happy than they actually are now. I'll pass it to Elle.
The future for me, I guess, just sounds like different types of art and just like the different forms of it, because I feel like it's subjective for everyone and it can just be really inspiring no matter how it comes. And then I'll pass it to Z.
The future to me, I think of it as like just something like we really just don't know, but also I feel like it's a good thing. I don't really know how to describe it, but like the future to me is basically like tomorrow. It's like you don't know what's going to happen, but it's always can be something good or something bad. Like when I think of future, I think happy. So like basically like anything happy or like good vibes. So like maybe the piano or something like that. Like something just happy and positive.
So thank you guys for watching. Be sure we have a Spotify playlist that you can add your music to and also listen to the music that we mentioned in this discussion as well. And also be sure that you go out and vote.
This is about looking forward, not looking back, and not accepting the okie doke that these decision makers give to us. Right?
During these trying times, we have seen citizens ask for more and more transparency from our state and elected officials. As we draw closer and closer to Election Day, the urgency to get registered to vote and filling out a ballot is imperative to create change in the city of Philadelphia. The opportunity to establish more funding and more resources are often reflected in poll results.
As an organization, we believe political education is an important step in identifying which policymakers are responsible for the changes reflected in the quality of young people's education. This is why recognizing your voting power comes into play. When you cast a ballot, not only do you select a candidate, but you dictate how money and resources are allocated to things in your community that matter to you. For example, in 1998, state lawmakers passed Act 46 and Governor Tom Ridge signed into law, giving Harrisburg the power to replace the local school board with a school reform commission and forbidding the powerful teachers union from striking. The move was prompted by Superintendent David Hornbeck vowing to shut schools if the state did not bail out the school system. Management of the school district was given to a school board appointed by the mayor. This continued until 2001, when the district was taken over by the state, and the governor was given the power to appoint a majority of the 5 members of the new School Reform Commission. The SRC, which had 2 members appointed by the mayor and 3 by the governor, came into existence because Philadelphia leaders were eager to get more funding resources from the state, and state leaders wanted more oversight in the ability to convert existing public schools into charter schools. This set the tone for the next decade and a half, as the city has undergone constant budget cuts, mass teacher furloughs, and dozens of school closings. Currently, all members are appointed by the mayor of Philadelphia and improved by Philadelphia City Council. The Board of Education was reestablished in July 2018 after 17 years of governance by a school reform commission.
This right here is why PSU exists, because young people like us believe in fighting for our schools and communities, to have the love and support that we need.
It is also very important to vote in this upcoming election because the school-to-prison pipeline exists to not only profit off of incarcerated people, but to take away their constitutional rights as citizens as well. This is apparent in Philadelphia's history of expelling and charging high school students with crimes before they are even considered adults.
In Philadelphia alone, black kids are 3 times more likely to be arrested than their white peers. Black girls are 4 times more likely to be suspended and arrested more than white girls. Undocumented students are also facing impact by school policing and face the fears of interaction, resulting in being deported and separated from their families.
Arresting students for their behavior has implications that can affect them for the rest of their adult lives. Placing them in the criminal justice system is harmful because it can not only create more trauma in their lives, but make it more difficult to create a better life for themselves.
In Pennsylvania, black people constituted 11% of state residents, while 37 and 47% of the jail then prison population is black. In comparison, while 78% of the state population is made up of white people, they only made up 45% of the jail and then 43% of the prison population. As a resident of Pennsylvania, you cannot vote if you are currently serving time for conviction of a felony and will not get released from confinement until after the next election. If you are in a halfway house or other alternative correctional facility on pre-release status for conviction of a felony and will not get released until after the date of the next election, or if you got convicted of violating any provision of the Pennsylvania Election Code within the last 4 years.
As a minority, it is imperative that if you have the ability to vote, you cast your ballot in the upcoming general election. The right to vote is something that is being stripped from multiple groups of people here in the United States. We recognize the need for voter education, and that's why we created the Hammer Project, named after civil rights leader and voting activist Fannie Lou Hamer. We have established a phone banking program aimed at reminding and informing people about getting registered to vote. We must take heed to how politicians make decisions about our everyday lives and vote accordingly, especially when it comes to educating our young people here in the city of Philadelphia. Our lives depend on it.
We all seen that All of y'all had great videos, all y'all artists. I want to know, is there any reactions or responses to the video?
I just like it, like everybody here, like give yourselves like a freaking like round of applause, even for the people like showing up, because like literally I was like teary-eyed the entire time. And it's just like I don't know if everybody's been like keeping up with the news, but like it's just been such a stressful time, and it's just like, you know, you feel like there's like somebody like following you around everywhere with like all this politics stuff, and like watching a lot of these films just gave me a lot of hope, like, you know.
Our motto this election season is youth, power, and passion, and I feel like every single one of those films illustrated it so beautifully, that there's so much youth power and passion in the city of Philadelphia headed into this election season. So for me, it felt really sort of reinvigorating at a time when, yeah, the news is hard and it's a kind of a rough time for everybody, but to see this much energy moving towards a better future is really inspiring.
Like, a lot of people really don't know how important like voting really is, and I think people like exclude the youth because like if you're under 18 you can't vote, but I feel like the youth is like a big part of it. Like I feel like we're the main ones that should be involved, and I'm like glad that we're getting a platform and talking about it and spreading information that people like probably didn't know.
How is like media making an outlet for young people during this pandemic?
Like with quarantine and all, it definitely gives us more time to be productive and more creative with what we create. So with media making during this time, we can definitely connect with other youth, and like the videos and films that are made, such as what was shown in the screening, definitely show that we're not alone and our voices definitely do matter. And with these different platforms, it gives youth the opportunity to step up and speak on these serious topics such as voter suppression, which is not always talked about, but over the years, it has definitely become more apparent.
Oh, going off of what Amina said, talking about quarantine specifically, Poppyn created these vlogs. I think it was one of the first things we created after quarantine started, where we all took videos of our new norm, I suppose. A lot of the videos did shed a lot of light on not only like what does everyone else in my organization do, but it kind of made it seem like we were all in the same boat.
I think this sense of community is really something that we've been able to build in a really unique way with things being online, which I think has been in some ways kind of a hidden gift. Vote That John went entirely online for most of the summer, holding some voter registration drives across the city, but a lot of our outreach was really focused on getting youth involved online. So y'all saw Cameron and Shamar's like amazing TikToks they're still producing, and there's so many innovative ways to get information out to people. We saw that with Poppyn's voter suppression video tonight. I think that this shift to online is in some ways a really great way to engage and build connections.
I feel like the media, especially now because of the pandemic, plays like a big role in everything, because most people like they're not going outside. So like most of everything we're getting is from media. And I think it's just important to like carry your own opinion, like she said, and like what you're reading, like you should really do your research on it, because like you don't want to like get a wrong idea that's wrong, because like there's, like I said, a lot of wrong things that people put out on social media, and I think it's just important to understand like what's right and what's wrong.
It's really good for us to inform each other, because instead of fighting against each other, we should definitely be fighting with each other to overthrow this system that is becoming more and more corrupted over the years. So it's good that we inform each other on what's going on so we can figure out how to tackle it.
So we know what the media is halfly not doing. I want to know what are y'all orgs doing at this time in this current moment to help the good of community?
Poppyn is really dedicated to making sure that everyone knows what's going on. We're always posting things. We're always, talking about what's happening, because it's really important for everyone to know. And we use our platform to make sure that happens.
And as a representative of Big Picture Alliance, shout out to the team. The two things that I feel that are really important that we're doing right now, which I can honestly thank like our mentors, Alex, Bettina, Nikki, all of this for, is the fact that they're giving us a platform to speak on how we feel. And I feel like that is one of the most important things that we can have right now, is giving kids who don't have an opportunity to have a platform to say what they feel, or to, you know, just speak on what it is that they feel, when they're experiencing.
So, Philadelphia Student Union, we're doing a Hammer project this month, October to November, before election, around election. I'm doing it for like 2 weeks now, and I learned a lot. I learned about voting rights I didn't know about before. And it's on Thursdays. On Thursdays, it's it's not actually phone banking, but it's like we come together, we talk about voting rights and the history of voting. And on Sunday, it's when we actually do the phone banking and reach out to people and get them registered to vote. And yeah, I think it's really important because it's like, I think I always thought voting was important. And I think if you're old enough and if you can vote, you definitely should. And no matter who you support, no matter like what side you're on, I think it's really important to vote. And I'm really happy to be a part of the Hammer Project.
Who can vote, or I guess suppose y'all, if y'all can vote, and how y'all feel about voting, and is this your first time?
I want to say it's really frustrating being a 17-year-old and not being able to vote in this type of election, especially being so high stakes. But I want to say that it's not just important to vote in the presidential election. It's important to vote in every election. Well, laws typically come from the state or U.S. state representatives or city councilmen. So those elections are just as important. Making sure that the people who are making the laws are people that will support you and see you.
I'm 17 and I can't vote, but I feel like I have enough education on voting to vote. I don't know. I think 18 is like, it just kind of basically backs everything we're saying, how like youth are like not taken seriously, because it's like, I feel like I'm old enough to vote right now. Like, I feel like if I could vote in this election, I definitely would. I feel like I know enough to vote.
But yeah, I just turned 18 like in August, and I registered to vote like probably a few weeks ago. But yeah, this will be my first time voting, so I never really voted yet. So I don't really know how to feel about it.
As a full-grown adult, you know, who has access to the internet, I have done my research. I don't trust any of these candidates, and it's just really, really stressful. And I think it was the WHYY film, when she started talking about third-party voting, like I felt that so hard because I actually wanted to third-party vote. I actually third-party voted my first time too. I voted for Jill Stein my first time around.
Yeah, so I turned 18 about 3 days before the election in 2016. So my first time voting was also in the 2016 presidential election. And yeah, I would agree. I think it was in a lot of ways a disappointing and disheartening experience, but it also, I think, sort of lit a fire under me to vote in every election I can. So I've voted in like the midterms and the election since. I think it's so inspiring to see all these high schoolers who already know so much about voting, because I definitely didn't know that much about voting when I was 16 or 17.
Do you feel that your vote matters? And if you do, what would you say to anybody to like kind of convince them that it do? I don't know if it does, so I want to hear what y'all say.
Like, I know for a fact that my vote matters. That is just the integrity that I hold as a person. Like, you have to believe that your vote matters in order for your voice to be heard. But I can understand, you know, people feeling discouraged or people feeling like, oh, you know, the system is working against me, because to a degree it is. So it's really just important to talk to people about how else they can get involved. And just like I said, like just really talking about how voting isn't necessarily the end all be all, but voting is very, very important.
I want to say I started off thinking it wasn't so important. I grew up in a family where they almost never vote. It wasn't until I got involved with organizations such as Poppyn or WHYY where I really understood, you know, what my vote means and what it means that I have a right to vote.
I'm from Florida originally, and in 2018 there was a referendum on the Florida ballot to allow formerly incarcerated people to vote. It was not a possibility. It was 4 million people disenfranchised. This is so important because even by voting, you can give the right of voting to other people. And so I think coming out, voting, it is your voice, and it also, and sometimes can be other people's voices or a way to give other people the voice that they've been denied. So I think it is so important to always get out there and vote, you know, and make sure that your voice is heard, because it does have real impacts on us certainly and on others.